We saw the Bitcoin ETFs have a absolute ripper last week. We had back-to-back days where they were almost $1 billion worth of buying.
Just goes to show, like, we often consider like ETFs are being bought up by institutions, maybe more savvy investors, like looking for that traditional route. They react to the market just like, you know, the regular retail punters. When the market's going well and when there's a bit more clarity, they're going to jump in as well.
If especially the last week showed us anything, there's demand for meme coins and AI right now. Like, I feel like when we see massive sell-offs like this, these are like the best times to build your watch list and see what's got relative strength in the market.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Tapping Into Crypto. Hav's got the giggles today.
Sorry.
Mate, it's all right, because we're back. Are we back?
Well, that's what we're gonna break down.
That's what we're here to discuss. So obviously last week we had that episode where we were talking about the market potentially thawing. It was a bit boring though, and then what do you know, the next day, before the episode even came out, vertical. Things just went, ballistic. So I guess we're here to break that all down. Why that pump happened? Is it going to be sustained? Like, can we trust this one?
Yep.
Where do we go from here? Talking about like some supporting topics for, you know, a potential bullish case for the remainder of the year. And then sort of talking about how we are playing it, or how we did play it and how we'd look to play it.
Yeah, I think the key thing for me is that we're going to dive into obviously how prices have moved and why they've, like you said, why they've moved. But I don't know why I'm repeating what you're saying.
It's all right, mate.
Yeah. I'm just excited.
It's because I just say great things. So
Good thing there's an editing team. So
no, mate, that's staying in.
That's staying in.
But listen, let's talk about the cause of the pump. So I think it was Wednesday for us, Australian time, and the main cause that I could see was, one, the cooling tensions between China and the US. Obviously, there was a lot of fear around like a global trade war, particularly spurred on by those two countries. But then Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent came out and had some, I guess, more optimistic comments to make, and the market reacted optimistically. So he said, you know, they can't, like, what they were doing was unsustainable and they needed to de-escalate those negotiations.
And I think we saw Trump on Truth Social, greatest platform in the world if you ask him, also come out saying similar things to Scott. So for once, I think, you know, we'd seen so many conflicting views from the people that are supposedly leading the way in these negotiations. Finally, they're on the same page in saying that, you know, this is getting too far. Yeah,
exactly. And I think what we were discussing was like they were just trying to go band for band when it came to the tariffs, right? And just seeing who was going to chicken out first. And it looks like they're both just going to de-escalate it, which is a good result for all.
And just to loop back to last week, like I think it was yourself, you pointed out, like, you know, we've just continued to see fundamentals look glowing. Like M2, global liquidity, that's very correlated to crypto markets. Just to basically say there's the fuel there for markets to perform when the time's right. But we were just seeing this hesitation from the market to jump in, all this headline risk, right? So if we're starting to see that go away, I think that's the best way to sort of articulate why we're seeing this sort of movement.
And what else? We saw Paul Atkins, new SEC chairman. He's come out with some positive statements about crypto. We're going to dive into that later. Is there anything else? Like I saw some chatter and some commentary around Twitter and socials around like an ending to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. I know Trump met with Zelensky
just recently, wasn't it?
I think it was in the Vatican for the Pope's funeral.
Was it? Okay.
And they sat down. So I haven't heard anything else from that, but there's like sort of hearsay that they're going to come to an agreement.
You got to think that as soon as that cools right off, that's going to be, you know, there's all this money just being rediverted into other places instead of just being spent there to help those two countries fight each other off. So
exactly.
Positive.
Do you think that's sort of like, is there anything else? Have we seen max pain, or do you think there's more to come?
Yeah, I think what last week showed us is, look, if we all accept and agree that the headlines were running the show for a little bit, which I think is the case, I think what we just simply saw was we saw the uncle. Like, we saw the moment where even the people that are putting the pressure on everyone, they even sort of step back and say, all right, this is getting a bit hairy.
Yeah.
So even to see that there is a point where someone like Trump and someone like Bessent and, you know, that whole crew, you know, as much as they're pressing on this sort of pressure for geopolitical reign and, you know, basically get what they want out of this trade war, they know that they can take it too far. So I think the market all of a sudden has done two things. I think last week we saw it was expecting it to get worse. Like, there was more to lose potentially. I guess a lot of people have lost so much already. Everyone's just, you know, understandably gone defensive.
Yeah.
And then obviously we saw them put the brakes on. All that protective downside measure, all that selling, people just ended up buying, right? And that's it. At the end of the day, for prices to go higher, there's more buying pressure and there's less people willing to sell. So I think what we've worked out is the market's seen the hand of Trump. And so we know now that if, as much as, now we're doing really well, I think we were talking about it earlier, he could easily just turn around now that things are performing quite well, throw some more fuel on the fire and potentially scare the market again at least once or twice. But I think the market knows where the level is, that it's not going to go worse than this anymore. So I think that's pretty important.
Okay. So I guess like the angle that we're taking to today's episode is, are we back?
Yeah. I think we're back. Back, baby. Yeah.
Clip it.
Yeah.
Clip it. All right. What's sort of like your main thesis for why we're back?
Yeah, to me, honestly, it is because the macro has looked fine since December. There were some cracks mid-January, you could argue, in some lead metrics in the market, but in any case, they're always like a short blimp. Like it was never the bull runs over type of change or shift. But again, like if we're just seeing the market completely unable to predict what's going to happen next, which is very much how you could describe what's happened recently, how could you expect that market to have certainty to, put money out for, even like companies, they're saying come to the US for manufacturing. Yet at the same time, no one's certain that what they're saying now will be the same in 6 months' time, right? So it's almost like a waiting game to see where does this all end? That's when people basically would be more likely to go out, deploy, grow their businesses, their companies. And as much as crypto has got nothing to do with the stock market, it is all sentiment. Like crypto is very heavily sentiment driven. Like we've seen it every time there's been a conflict, we've seen a sell-off, we've seen just sentiment in just the macro regime, like gone from like money tightening to money loosening. Obviously when money becomes more readily available, we do really well. So that's kind of like what we're at the forefront of seeing shift next, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's why I just think if we are definitely a headline-driven market environment, and we've seen the point at which they're willing to turn the boat around, which last week I think that was what that clearly was. If we do go lower, it's likely not going to be much lower, in my opinion. Okay. And that's kind of like what's exciting, I think, about where we are right now. Yeah.
Okay. And what about like closer to home in looking at like a little bit more specifically at the crypto market? What are we seeing from an ETF point of view, Bitcoin dominance, and like obviously we saw altcoins come back, but is Bitcoin dominance still pretty strong? Very
much so. I think it's still heading, we talked last year about 70 being a real possibility in terms of percentages.
Yeah.
Still not there, but it's still hovering in the mid 60s. We saw the Bitcoin ETFs have a absolute ripper last week. We had back-to-back days where there were almost $1 billion worth of buying. That was the 22nd and 23rd. And then even on Friday, we finished up, $500 million in buying power, net buying by the ETFs as well.
Yeah, so it just goes to show, like we often consider like ETFs are being bought up by institutions, maybe more savvy investors, like looking for that traditional route. But it just goes to show they react to the market just like the regular retail punters, right? When the market's going well and when there's a bit more clarity, they're going to jump in as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think just to add color to that too, like it's not just them, it's even policymakers. Like we saw Jerome Powell, who's Fed chair, independent body basically meant to set the monetary policy for the US. There's uncertainty even from them. They did it in their last, his last statement, at an economic forum where he said, we can't predict what's going to happen next. So there's been an this is, I guess, a moment in time where the retail, the institutional, even the policymakers, they are all on the same level in the sense that they don't know what's going to happen next. True. And I think that's why we saw what we've seen in the market the last couple of weeks. Like there's just no one knows.
Yeah. And I guess it favors those who take the risk.
Yeah. Well, when the time is right.
Yeah. What else good news have we got?
We got a new whale on the block.
On the block.
Yeah. Cantor Fitzgerald, massive TradFi institution, along with USDT, so Tether. Bitfinex.
Yeah. So Bitfinex,
SoftBank.
I think, started Tether.
Yeah.
So they own Tether, something like that. But yeah, they've all come together.
Yeah.
The big one is Cantor Fitzgerald, which you enlightened me that they're one of the biggest investment banks in the world. SoftBank.
Yeah.
And also SoftBank, Cantor Fitzgerald, Tether, and Bitfinex have come together to start their own Bitcoin fund with a similar sort of strategy to MicroStrategy.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to start accumulating Bitcoin. Is it just Bitcoin? Is that essentially
That's it.
And just bring on investors?
Yeah, they brought on Jack Mallers, famous for getting El Salvador on the blockchain.
Oh, yeah.
Bitcoin, sorry.
Strike.
Standard. Stripe. Yep, Strike.
Yeah.
So he was instrumental in, I guess, that nation adopting Bitcoin. So obviously they're trusting him to be the evangelist and the CEO, the Michael Saylor-esque of this new capital fund.
Yep.
But their whole mandate is buy Bitcoin. That's it. And it's, when you think about these institutional banks, as much as we've seen Metaplanet in Japan, we've seen Strategy, previously MicroStrategy, basically come out every second or third day at some points buying a couple of $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. You've got, one of the largest institutional players in the world, now potentially going to be adding to that buying power. This is huge. Like, I really can't stress how big of a catalyst that this is. Just because of their reach. Like, they'll be offering a product that's already has a market fit. There's demand for what Strategy is doing. They're just looking to basically take a piece of that pie.
Yeah.
And man, it's exciting.
So that one's called 21 Capital, which nice name, nice little nod to Bitcoin's limited supply to 21 million.
Yeah.
And they're launching with 42,000 Bitcoin. So that's worth about, $3.94 billion. That's less than MicroStrategy, but you can probably understand, like, given the power that you just mentioned and the network they have, like, that's going to grow pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's one that you're going to watch real fast. I reckon that's going to be bigger than what we saw with the ETFs. Big time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Big call.
Yeah.
Big call. Okay. Massive news.
Yeah.
What's next? So another supporting thing that we mentioned, like, just at the start of the episode, was the regulatory shift in the US, right? We saw, back when, President Biden was in power, Gary Gensler was famously pretty anti-crypto, and he kind of enforced against it rather than worked with it. Obviously, you have a duty to protect consumers, but also you got to foster innovation. And Trump has this big thing on making crypto, the US a crypto capital of the world. And he's brought in Paul Atkins, who's very pro crypto, pro free markets and all that. And he's basically come out and made a statement saying, I'm going to make crypto regulation a top priority during my tenure here. And so that's really good news. And I mean, like, I'm not too familiar with his past, but all I know is that he held crypto at one point, and
he was like an advocate, I think, back in the day. Just essentially saying that this is a truly free market and we should keep it that way. Like, just noted for being very libertarian about it all.
Yep. Dropped the Ripple lawsuit.
Yep.
So he's just, dusted his hands off with that.
It's just a 180 from what we had experienced.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think even then, like, yes, I could have some danger as well. Like, does that just mean, like, we overshoot? But I mean, anything's got to be better than where we came from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it sounds like they're doing all the right things in order to sort of bring the US back as that crypto capital or crypto leader in the world. So all good things. And obviously it's good for the market as a whole, because we look at the US as sort of like the forefront of innovation, particularly in the West. And so
even consumers, they are leading consumers in the world.
As well. Yeah, exactly. So it all leads in the right direction for, if you're just a punter in the market who holds crypto, like, it's a good sign for it, because famously Gensler was not good for the market. But talk to me about another regulatory tailwind, which is XRP futures.
Yeah, I mean, this one may or may not be a big deal. I think it just adds a bit of staying power to maybe the value within the XRP asset, but they're being listed on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, CME futures, biggest futures exchange in the world. So notably, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all listed on there currently. It opens up some more sophisticated options for people like hedge funds, able to hedge their risks on spot exposure, as well as look to earn yield through other strategies. But at the end of the day, it sort of puts XRP on a different plane.
Yep.
So that's obviously good news for XRP.
And holders. I also saw that they got an ETF approved in Brazil. So
in Brazil?
Yeah. So like spot ETF in XRP in Brazil is set to go live. So
there you go.
I mean, we might be a little. Actually, I think we'll get sort of an indication on if a spot XRP ETF is approved by the end of the year. Is that correct? I think there's Solana, Litecoin,
XRP,
Dogecoin and XRP are the ones, the front runners.
I know Dogecoin is next month. I think either the first, there's a decision point next month for Dogecoin.
Yeah.
So
we could see a Dogecoin ETF approved as early as next month.
How good would it be? Well, SEC's already cleared meme coins, so
Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of got the best chance.
Like what the decision making for something like that is, because
Yeah.
obviously Dogecoin has an unlimited supply, unlike Bitcoin, which is scarce.
Oh, it's mined in a similar way. It's a fork.
Yeah, but there's
Bitcoin.
no like.
Oh, it's not
the
limited
amount of
supply. Sorry.
it's unlimited.
Yeah, sorry.
So it just means there could be an infinite amount of Dogecoin in the universe, meaning not great for the economics of it. But I don't know. Like, are those things considered, or is it more just considered it's an asset?
I just think if we're in a melting pot of things going higher, you just got to think about what's got a bit of a narrative right now. And if ETFs and just the institutional side gets some traction again, and like Solana is, like you said, XRP is, Dogecoin, there's also BONK, I think Trump coin as well. There's a few of these that are just like in that, they've got that tag or attribute of ETFs are being built around these products. I think there may be some sort of demand from the market there.
Please don't approve a Trump coin ETF. But speaking of, let's discuss altcoins.
Yeah, let's
because after we saw Bitcoin pump past 90K and even past 95K, we saw a huge altcoin rally. The main one that probably led it from, like a top 100 point of view was Sui. We talked about Sui last week.
Absolutely crazy.
Positioned really well in the altcoin market. So once, things are looking a bit brighter from a fundamental standpoint and a macro standpoint, we spoke about how Sui is probably going to prosper.
And just to add some narrative there too, Ted called it 2 years ago that was your one to watch.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah,
So how's that feel?
Pretty good. I did at the start of this year say it was going to enter the top 10 by market cap. It's sitting at 11. It's still got a while to overtake Tron, which is at 10th position. But look, I still reckon it can happen before the end of the year.
Absolutely.
But it's up 60% in 7 days. And then on the back of that, we saw a huge pump in some of the Sui ecosystem coins. So we discussed last week how Swyftx released that report on Sui and how it's still growing from a fundamental standpoint. So it's got new projects launched called Deepbook and Walrus. So Deepbook is on-chain trading on Sui. So kind of similar to Uniswap on Ethereum, where you can trade tokens, but it's not an automated market maker. It acts more like traditional markets where people can set their buy and sell points. So that's pumped 150% in the last 7 days. We also saw Walrus, which is decentralized storage on Sui.
Oh, storage. Okay.
Yeah. So we're seeing the ecosystem sort of get a bit more mature.
Yep.
These are the sorts of things that you want to see from a thriving layer one that has decentralized applications to support a whole range of services, right? Storage, trading, games, memes, all those things. You want to see that on top of a layer one like Sui.
Yeah, I mean, if we've especially the last week shown us anything, there's demand for meme coins and AI right now. I feel like when we see massive sell-offs like this, these are the best times to build your watch lists and see what's got relative strength in the market.
Yeah.
I wonder if there are any AI or what the meme coins are on Sui. I haven't quite dived into that.
Yeah, I remember I was looking at one a while ago, which was it Lo-fi? Lofi?
Which was that that Yeti thing?
Yeah, the Yeti.
I remember you showed me that.
Yeah. I had a look at that. It's look, I probably won't be buying anytime soon, but I'll keep an eye on it. But yeah, what are some other trends we saw play out?
Look, yeah, honestly, I saw BONK. That was up quite a bit. I think it's up 89% for the last 30 days.
Yep.
And that was, again, good catalyst there was number one meme coins, so just catching a bid. Like I mentioned, BONK's got an ETF. Don't know if people are thinking about that right now. But they also released a Pump.Fund competitor, sort of competing product. So just the ability to launch your own coin, launch your own meme. That's obviously was a very popular trend in the last 12 months. And, albeit we might see it take off again.
So BONK's actually developing some useful products rather than just being purely a meme coin.
Yeah, and that's what I've liked about the BONK team. They have made actually quite a few things. If you go check out their homepage, even BONKbot, they were early to the Telegram bot scene, and everything they build, there's a rationale in sense of that any fees that are generated, they buy back their own tokens and burn them, so they're effectively reducing their supply. I don't want to seem like a BONK maxi, but I just think if you're going to buy meme coins, there are ways to sort of understand that there's some do have fundamentals, and that's pretty important to try to work out.
Yeah, there was definitely a meme coin narrative playing out. So as you said, BONK, also Pengu, Brett, Fwog, and Whiff.
Pengu flew, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if Pengu is actually a meme coin, probably more NFT space. But anyway, it's got a little penguin, so we'll call it a meme coin. AI as well, Virtuals protocol. Been killing it. So AI agents.
So Render still moving. It's not in a huge way. FET as well. Or that new. It's been rebranded to something new. That's still doing well.
GIX. Oh, wait, no.
No.
That's the super intelligence something.
Yeah.
Where they combine with like Ocean and AGIX.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also Trump. So Trump's up over 50% in 7 days.
I'm not going to read into that too much.
Well, I'll tell you why, or I'll tell you like a contributing factor is they announced the top 220 holders would be invited to dinner.
I did hear about this.
With the US president.
Yep.
So
do people really want that?
I'm sure people are desperate for that.
Do you reckon they get Maccas for dinner?
Probably. Well, doesn't Trump have like the worst diet in the world? So
allegedly.
Well,
so does Warren Buffett, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
They both love like cheeseburgers and cans of Coke, which who doesn't?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess
I don't think Daniel likes it.
Big Trump guy over here.
Yeah.
I guess Pav, how have you played this last week, and what are you looking to do for the we'll say the remainder of the quarter, so ending in July for the next couple of months? What's your strategy?
Well, I'm still long a lot of my. Well, actually, no, I'm not. I sold a fair bit in February because I had to, because I bought a house. But I've been adding, honestly, just Bitcoin and some specific meme coins. In very small portions, I should add to that as well. But it's a very Bitcoin heavy averaging that I've been doing. Trading, finally, like getting some volatility and some nice movements that are not too. They're suitable for me to work in. So like I've had a good week last week and be looking to capitalize again this week, hopefully. That's it for me. Like I think I've kind of done the hard work like yourself. I think you're going to say like, while things were not looking too good. So I just sort of sit back now. The way, the technicals are shaping up, the fundamentals are lining up now too slowly. This does open up new all-time highs for sure. Maybe even before the middle of this year. Definitely by the end of this year, I think that's a given. So that's kind of like how I'm sort of seeing things and what I'm doing. The only thing I would say is like, once we do start to see this go, I think a lot of people have never seen a crypto bull market in full swing. It moves a lot faster than what you think. So just strap in if we get it.
Yeah.
Just to act a little bit balanced.
But also remember that we're in this game, or I'd say most people are in this game to make a profit.
Yeah, so you got to do that.
So it's always important never to get ahead of yourself and think, oh, but what if it got to this price? Always remember, it's not going to be up and up forever.
Actually, that's a good point, because we talked about this as well before the show, the fact that there's likely another at least 10-30% pullback that will happen in the middle of the bull run on Bitcoin, which will be a 50% wash on altcoins again. Get
hit harder. But
how about you?
For myself, I shaved off some profits from Sui and BONK, two coins that performed this week. Just because you got to pay bills. Yeah, you got to pay yourself.
You pay yourself.
So we draw that into the bank account, which is also an important thing.
It's real.
You do. Not just leaving it in your Swyftx account or whatever account you use to trade, then it's just there to be traded again, like so easily. I like to actually withdraw that into as income.
I like that.
Remember, you do have to pay tax on capital gains. But yeah, for the remainder, like I think it's for any of the listeners, it comes as no surprise. My biggest holdings are Bitcoin in particular, and then Sui and Solana, and then also some really small holdings in like the likes of BONK. And Peak as well. So yeah, I'm just sort of holding those, continuing my like automated recurring orders through Swyftx, and then we'll look to shave off more profits as the market heads upwards, as we hope it does.
Yep. No, I think it's some exciting weeks ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we might leave it there.
I think so.
Bit more of a pep in your step today, Pav.
Well, you too.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Is that because you bought $1,000 shoes after taking profits?
Yeah, mate. We don't speak about that.
No, we don't speak about that.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Catch you next week.